This is Pat Bird again. In this mini lecture, I'd like for us to think about what we call academic vocabulary, but really not just individual words, but how those words are used in some of the challenges of learning new vocabulary for our students. Before we move ahead to talk about academic vocabulary, please get a copy of 20 most frequent words used in the written materials in ACE. There's a PDF in Angel that's called 20 most frequent words in ACE written corpus. The ACE staff can help you to download that. You can look at it on your computer, or if you'd like, you can make a printed copy of it to use. And certainly pause me for a while until you get that copy. In ESL over the years, especially I think in the United States, we really have separated grammar and vocabulary. We have disconnected two vitally important, closely connected parts of language. Probably because so many of our early leaders were linguists, they were interested in syntax, not very interested in words. But when we stop and think about it, students tell us that they're interested in words. They want to know words. Our own experience tells us words matter. When we go on a trip overseas, we probably don't take a grammar book with us, but take a dictionary or a word list. What corpus linguistics also tells us is that words matter, that words are where language begins, and it's each word. So we have words, and then those words have particular grammar that they're used. So what we need to think about is how words and grammar interact, and how vocabulary, academic vocabulary, is used in academic communication. For example, some verbs occur most of the time in present tense. Verbs like bet, care, differ, doubt, know, I know what you mean, matter, mean, mind, suppose, think, I think about that, I want to go. Those kinds of words tend to be in present tense. Now, they could be in past tense, but most of the time we're going to use them in present tense. Some verbs occur most of the time in past tense. Some of these exclaimed, eyed, glanced, grinned, nodded, a lot of these seem to come from narrative kinds of things, but they're used mostly in past tense, although they certainly can be used in present tense, but on the whole, they're something that we use in the past. And some verbs are commonly used in passive voice, things like is aligned with, are based on, are coupled with, some of these are very academic, are inclined to do so and so. So these are very commonly used in passive voice. The point is that certain verbs are attracted to certain grammar, or a better way, certain words attract particular kinds of grammar. Let's take a look at a word that's really important in the psychology class, the word feel. What do we know about feel from looking at the corpus that we have for ACE? Well, feel and its tense. The word feel is used 250 times, where the subject-verb agreement form is only used 14 times. And the past tense is only used 20 times. So that tells us that most of the time feel is going to be used with a plural subject or used as an infinitive. The subjects that go with feel, mostly you feel, which could be the individual reader, but probably a generic kind of you, I feel, and people feel. Those are the most common subjects that show up with the verb feel. The verb phrases that it's used in, most of the time used by itself. I feel something. And that gets us back to those 250 uses of how feel is most commonly used as a verb. And then the modals it's used with, will feel and should feel. And then often in a question, do you feel? Now, what kinds of things come after feel? So these are very common patterns. Feel good, feel comfortable, feel better, feel stressed, feel awkward, feel puzzled. Or the nouns, feel pain, feel emotions, feel a change, feel a sense of. Our prepositional kinds of things, feel about or feel like. And then some just typical sentences that are used with feel. How do you feel about the job, or how do you feel about the activity? And then people who are unable to feel good about themselves. So in psychology, in this introductory psychology course, a word that's very commonly used, feel, has particular kinds of grammar patterns and uses that we can identify with the corpus. To know what a word means, to know a word means two things: knowing its meaning and knowing how to use it. Knowing a meaning means knowing the core meaning, that is the dictionary meaning or a synonym or some parallel word in another language. The meaning is also comes with the words that it goes with, so the whole family of feel, feels, feeling, felt, feelings. Collocates, which means words that are often used together, so feel is often with good, feel good, or with how, as how do you feel. More or less set phrases that include the word how do you feel about. So the meaning is core meaning, other words, and then these words that are related to it. The use for a word is how do you spell it, how do you say it, how do you understand it when somebody else says it, the grammatical patterns required to use the word, and then any special phrases or combinations used in a particular field of study. So the word is theory in the psychology course is likely to be something like psychoanalytic theory, but over in the biology course, students are going to be hearing about evolutionary theory. So knowing a word means more than knowing the core meaning. It means all of these other things too. Along with textbooks, the ACE reading assignments include a lot of other things: blogs, course support systems, and things that the teachers have put on Angel and ULearn, links to readings, online self-assessments. So students are reading a lot of materials. For the 4 courses, they read approximately 770,000 words in the semester. That is, in one academic term, the students are expected by their teachers to have read 770,000 words. Words come in 2-word or longer sets, so they need to be learned together. If you look at the single word count for psychology, esteem is given, but when we look back at the materials, esteem is never used by itself. It's only used in the phrase self-esteem. And we see words like the and of, which are among the most frequent words in English, are frequent because they're used in phrases like the end of the, at the same time, if you look at figure so-and-so. So these words are used over and over again because they're used in highly frequent phrases. So the students have to read, process, try to understand the content presented in 770,000 words over one semester, divided into 4 content areas. If we look at those words, we can see even what a greater challenge they have than we have. So the 770,000 words are created by recycling 29,000 different individual words. Many of those 29,000 words are the core vocabulary of English, the, of, and. Together, the and of make up about 10% of all the words in the written materials in ACE. Again, that's because they're used in such frequent phrases like the end of the. Some of those 29,000 words that are recycled to make up the 770,000 words are high-frequency words, content words, life, time, people, art, cells. Almost half of the 29,000 words are used infrequently. There are 4,000 words that are used just 2 times, and 10,000 words that are used just 1 time. So that's really a major task for the student, the learner, and the teacher, is learning how to handle words that you see just 1 time. Please look again at that list of the most frequent words or phrases in the 4 courses in ACE, the one that I asked you to get at the beginning of this. The language of the reading materials in psychology, biology, and humanities is that the language that the students are supposed to be learning, the language of the core concepts of these disciplines. So those reading lists could become almost a study list for students. These are the words you have to know to be able to take the test, to write the papers, to understand what's going on in the class. The reading materials in freshman composition, now the vocabulary there are not about the concepts and skills that students are supposed to be learning. It's like ESL, EAP in that the learning is about writing a paper of some kind, but the vocabulary that you hear in class has to do with discussions of certain kinds of readings, and so that the vocabulary of how you talk about writing may not be highly frequent in the class. Learning word is also learning a phrase. There's some very frequent phrases in the psychology textbooks, and phrases can be divided up into phrases that organize and phrases that are used to present particular, it says class, but it means content. So phrases that organize, it's important to, on the other hand, as a result of, at the end of, in the first place, one of the most is referred to as, and you can see in there the use of those highly frequent words, the, of, the, one of the things that tells me is that students don't need always to be trying to understand some dictionary meaning of the, but to be memorizing these as a set phrase. So you don't learn the meaning of on the other hand is not adding up on and the and other and hand, but it's a set phrase that all go together to mean, here's a counter example. And then there are phrases used to present particular content. So low self-esteem, high self-esteem, those are repeated over and over again. So self-esteem is a term, and then low self-esteem is another set term. So low self-esteem, high self-esteem, level of self-esteem, internal locus of control, fight or flight, or fight or flight response, win-win or win-win outcome, take the time to. So these are used over and over again and need to be learned and used as set phrases rather than as individual words.